Hello everyone and welcome to this new stream. Today we are going to be talking about Substance Designer 2017.1. So this is going to be the new release for Substance Designer, and as we covered last week, we had a stream covering the new Substance Painter. So 2017 is going to be the entry into our new kind of maintenance system. We've talked about that a few weeks ago, and of course you can get more information on our website. So like I said, 2017.1, this is the start of a lot of new features coming to Designer. So today we're going to take a look at what's new in this point 1 release. Now, before I get started, I want to just give a special shout out and thanks to all of the developers at Algorithmic back in France in Clermont. All those who have put a lot of hard work into this release. So thank you very much, guys. We all greatly appreciate it. Also want to give a special shout out to Nicholas Weirman. Thanks so much, Nicholas, for helping me get prepped for this live stream. All right, so now let's take a look at what we have here in 2017.1. All right, so now I'm just kind of transitioning here over into Substance Designer. And one of the things that we've done here for this release has been a complete rework or revamp of the baking UI. So we're going to cover that first. And here I've just got a simple asset. And I'm going to come over to my resources, and you can see that I've got like a low and a high res mesh in here already. So let's just right click the low res mesh and go to our bake model information. And so now we have this new window appears. This is our new baking dialog. So you can see here we have this window, and it's non-modal, so we can move it around. And one of the biggest things about this is that it's basically non-blocking to the UI. So for example, now I can come in and just start to work with the UI. Here, let me just minimize Designer here so we can see both windows together. So here you can see that we're going to have both windows together, and this baking window is no longer going to block the UI. So we can set up settings, we can bake, we can come back into the UI and work back and forth. And you'll see how that's it's pretty important in improving the overall productivity and workflow. Yeah, so one other note here, I'm also going to try to be watching the live chat as we work. So if you guys have any questions or as I'm going, just please ask, and no worries about interrupting the presentation. I love to kind of try to keep it live and answer questions as we go. So again, I'm trying to watch the chat as I go. So if you have a question, just throw it out there. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about the new baking window here. So you'll notice that we've made some changes. A lot of the same features are there, a couple new added features as well, but we've really changed the baking window. So let's talk about this. So here you can see that, well, we just have some organization here. We still have our elements to bake. So in this particular case, I have select by materials, or I could do sub mesh if I want. I only had one mesh. So here I'm just looking at the materials that were were assigned to that mesh. Here we also have our output settings here, where we can work with our, where we're going to save the bakes to, whether it's linked or embedded and so on. Here in this section, we have our high definition mesh set up. So of course I need to add a high definition. So I'm going to click the high definition model button here. Now from file, I could browse to a location, but in my case, I already added it to my package. So I'm going to say from resources here, and I'll grab this part skew high, and we'll just load this guy in. So here's our mesh. Now this section here is going to basically control where, how the raycast works for the bake. And again, these are, nothing new to these settings. Well, a few things as we'll discuss, but I'm just talking about the organization of it. So here, the set distance with values, this is allowing us to change that frontal and rear distance value. So in my case here, you can see that I've got a value that I know works for this particular mesh set. If we wanted to work with a cage, we could do that by just selecting cage path. And then here we could just browse for that cage mesh. In my case, I'm just going to go back to the actual values. Again, that just means my front and rear distance value. We've got nothing new with bound to box or ignore. Match is the same. Here you'll notice that we have this new option here for skew correction. Now I'm going to disable this for now. We're going to come back to this in a bit, but this is a whole new feature that's pretty exciting here to Substance Designer. So we'll demo that in a bit. Another feature that we have here that's new is this use low as high definition. And this is making its way from Substance Painter. So all this allows you to do is just what it says. It just allows you to use the low resolution mesh. So that's the mesh that we're baking from as the high definition mesh. So you have that option if you need to do that. Okay, so here in this middle section is where we have some global parameters for things like controlling the default size and the format. So here you can see that I'm working with my bake resolution. I can actually unlink this if I need to bake non-square texture size. Here we have our default formats. You can see I'm using PNG. Anti-aliasing, do we want to do any subsampling? If we want here, we can set that. And what UV set we're using. Here we also have our dilation, applied diffusion, and this average normals checkbox. So again, these are kind of like global controls for all the bakers that we're going to add. And speaking of that, here we have our bake render list. So here, let me take this guy and delete it for now. So let's take a look at how we would just add a bake. So here you just click the add bake button, and then here we have the list of all the bakers. In this case, for this demonstration, I'm going to add a normal. So I'm going to do normal map from mesh here. So I add this guy into here, and you'll notice that in terms of its size, you can see that it's, well, it's already kind of adhering to whatever global setting I have here for my size. So we've got 2048, 2048, and so on. Anti-alias is set to none. That's because my default was set to none. Average normals is enabled here, so it's set to true, UV set 0, and the format's PNG. So we now have added this new capability here with the baker to be able to change these settings. So for example, let's say that for my normal map, I wanted to change the resolution of this guy. So if I just click here in this field, or I'm sorry, double click, I can actually change the resolution. So let's say I wanted to bake my normal map at 4K. So I can do that here. If I wanted to change my aliasing, I could do that by making this 2x2. Average normals, I want to keep the true, and so on. I can even change my image format if I want to do that here. So we can control this here for each baker. Here, for example, let's add a different guy here. Let's do ambient occlusion from mesh. And you can see that this guy, again, is still adhering to whatever global settings that I have. So he's still, 2K, no anti-aliasing, and so on. But again, I could change this if I want to. So let's say ambient occlusion, I only needed a 1K bake. And for my anti-aliasing, again, I'll do 2x2, and so on. So I can make changes to all this. Now, if I want to reset some of these values, I could do this. For example, I could just right-click, and I could say I want to reset the cell. So reset the cell just takes it back to none. When it resets, again, it's going to reset to whatever this default value here is. Now, if I want to just reset everything, like clear out everything, here I just right-click and say reset line, and it just clears everything. So here, let's go back to this ambient occlusion. We'll delete this baker here for now. So like I said, now we have like another way of managing the settings that we're going to have for these particular bakes. Now, for the bake that I have enabled here, you can see that depending on whatever baker you have, you're going to have some baker parameters. So for our normal map, you can see that this guy's using tangent space and DirectX. If I were to use, let's just add another baker again. Let's go back to the ambient occlusion. He's selected, so you see that here I've got my baker parameters for the ambient occlusion. All right, so like I said, I'm going to remove that guy for now. So let me just check and make sure I'm not really missing anything. Okay, so one other thing that we have for this baker window. So one of the things that you'll notice that down here at the bottom, we have this new save baking setup. So what I have done here is, well, I've set up a bake that I want to do. Now, the way that it used to work is that in order, like, you would have like your bake settings, and then you would bake, and it would bake the map. And then if you went back into the baker from there after the bake had already happened, and you opened up the baker dialog, your settings would be there. But now we've added this ability to say, let's say that I set this up like I want. I can actually save the baking setup now, and it's now going to be saved. So if I were to just cancel this bake, and here, let's go back and then bake model information again. So we open it back up. Here you can see that it just saves everything. Now, I didn't actually do a bake yet. It's saving it all as part of, well, it actually saves it as part of this mesh resource that we've added here to our package. So again, at this time, it's still saved just as it was as part of the resource that's placed in your Substance package, but we no longer have to bake. We can just save these baking setups here. Another improvement to the baking, and it's going to be difficult for me to show it on this model because it's not like a super dense high resolution mesh, but we keep a high def mesh in cache until the baker window is closed. So let's say, for example, whoops, moving my windows all over the place here. So let's say, for example, you know, I have a bunch of different bakes. So I've got like ambient occlusion, and then here I've got like a position and all these different things. Well, here, not position. Let's do one from mesh here. Let's do height map from mesh. So we've got these bakers who are going to be specifically using this high-res mesh. So one of the processes that takes so long about the baker is that, you know, it was taking a lot of time to load up that high resolution mesh. So if you had like a super dense mesh or real heavy mesh, it was just going to take longer. Now we actually cache that high res mesh. So now it's going to like bake the normal map, and then it's going to go right into ambient occlusion, and it'll just bake that and then bake the height map, and it's all going to be cached on that high resolution mesh. So it's going to be so much faster. Now, like I said, that's going to retain cache until I close this baker window. Okay, so here, just kind of running through a few more of these settings here. Let me just check here and make sure I didn't leave anything out. Okay, here, let me actually go in and demonstrate this skew correction feature, because this is actually really awesome. All right, so let's just do a bake here. So I'm talking all this baking stuff and I haven't actually done any baking yet. So let's see, I have my normal map, everything's set up. I'm going to render selected baker here. So here you can see this is a process here where this map is being saved to drive, and you'll notice that in this particular case here for my bake, the part that took the longest was saving that. Now, I want to give you a tip on how we can work around that. So for example, notice here that my format was set to PNG. In that case, PNG it's going to take a little bit longer. So one of the things we could do is if I come over here to my edit preferences, and if I come over to, let me see where this guy is, project, and inside, let's see, where is this guy? Baking, is it? Bear with me for just a second. Okay, yeah, it's underneath general. And if I come over here to PNG, and for the compression, if I set this here to none, then it's not going to, apply a compression, and then actually it's going to make the saving of that image to disk much faster. So if you're using PNG, this is a good tip to kind of speed up that process of the bake. So now that I have this, I'll click apply and OK. And then so next time that'll go a little bit quicker. Okay, so let's just kind of maximize a little bit more my UI, because things are a little bit cramped here. One area where this is going to be so much better is if you have like dual monitors, so that you can have this on another monitor. But showing how we can now keep this baker window open as I'm going through the baking process, you'll see how this is going to be beneficial as we go through this. So let's take a look at this normal map that we baked here. So we're going to go in and take a look at this normal map. First, though, here I want to show you one thing. Let's come over here to this part high. And this here you'll notice is my high-res mesh. So you can see I've got some nice beveled edges here on this high-res, but I've also have these this extra bolt geometry. And in the low-res mesh, I don't have any mesh there. I'm just trying to just use that to kind of project that down to the normal map. And so if I go back here to the low res, you can see that again, I just have the low res, and notice I have like these hard edges here. So if we look at the normal map itself, you'll see that this bolt is being skewed now. So here, let's actually apply this. So what I can do is just take this map, and I'm just going to just left click and drag and drop it here into my 3D view. And I'm going to let go of my mouse and just place this here into the normal. So I can see that my edge bevels look pretty nice and clean, but you can see here my bolts are skewed pretty bad. And if we look up here at the top, you can see that we're getting some terrible skew distortion types effects. So like I said, we've added a new process in the baker to help us fix this without having to go in and do a lot of manual work. So let's take a look at how this new system works. So we'll go back over here to my bake window, and what I want to do is just enable this skew correction here. So I'm going to enable that, and when you do that, it gives you this option here for this skew map. And so it's going to say, hey, I need the skew map. I need to set this guy. So I don't actually have a skew map yet. So let's create that, because I want to show you how we can do that. So here in Designer, we've got some basic painting tools, and we can use that to help us create this skew map. So here in my resources, I'm going to right click and choose New Bitmap. And so here you can see I'm using the same pixel dimension, width, and height as my bake. So I'm going to come into here, and I'll just call this skew fix. and I'll click OK. And so now I'm adding this guy here to my resources. Again, let me just mess around with my windows here. I'm pretty cramped on this small monitor that I have. Okay, so now that I have this set up, like I said, I'm going to paint a mask here to help me with this skew distortion. So I'll come into here, and I can actually load any image into the background of my 2D view. So if you didn't know that, there's a little button here. It's this A over B button. And if I click this, it's going to let me load an image in. Now, I've actually already loaded this image in when I was kind of running through this. So that's why you see it just automatically appear. So in your case, what you would see is you'd click this button and it would ask you to, hey, what image do you want to use? And you could just choose, in my case, I just chose the normal map that I'm saving to this default folder outside of my Substance. Because I didn't, if you'll notice again, I didn't embed that, I'm linking it. So it's linked to this on my desktop actually. So here it is, and I can come in and change the opacity and things like that of this. So if I come over to this area, you can see that I can adjust my opacity of that background. So like I said, I have this bitmap selected here, and I've got a brush, and so here I've got a foreground color of white. And so let me just zoom in here into this area, and what I'm going to do is just paint kind of just a little white area around where I have this distortion problem. So right around these bolts. So here you can see I've painted that into where these bolts, let's get these guys here. These are on the side, I think. And this, no, I'm sorry, that's on the top, maybe. No, that's the side, I'm sorry. I made this, I don't even know what the up and down is. All right, so here we go. We get that set. We'll turn off that background. So this is the map that I created here. So here, I'll go ahead and save my package. So I've got this new map in. Let's jump back over here to our Baker again. Window's still there. I don't have to like open and close Baker windows and all that jazz anymore. I can now just come into my skew map, and we'll choose from resource, and I'll grab just my skew fix. And let's see here. Now I think everything's set up. I'll just hit render select Baker. All right, so now that we've got that guy in place, let's go back here. Now you can see that we've already got this updated here in my 3D view, so the bolts are now fixed. Let's take a look at that normal map. So we'll double click to view that here in the 2D view, and if I zoom in, you can see that now it's fixed that. So I don't have to worry about this crazy manual process of trying to fix this. I can now just simply paint a mask in the areas that are being distorted, feed that here into my skew map, enable skew map correction, and I'm good to go. So now we've fixed these bolts here in this area. Here we'll come up towards the top, and you can see that all that skewing that I had has been fixed as well. So we're good. So that's how the new skew correction works. And one other thing I want to talk about with this is there's also an option here for invert skew correction. So this could be handy depending on ways that you want to work. So for example, you saw that before when I was painting the skew map fix here. So if I just again double click, and there we go. Get my monitor. Everything's a little bit unresponsive for me right now. You'll saw that like I said, I painted white in the areas where I wanted to have the correction, and then black is basically going to be no correction. I'm going to go a little bit more into depth of that in just a moment. But if I wanted to, I could just invert this, meaning that I could decide to like maybe paint the areas that I want to be safe. So for example, maybe in my, if I came over here to my 2D view, maybe I want to be able to paint just the edges that I want to keep, basically make those like a holdout area of my mask, and then when I come over and do my invert skew correction, it's going to basically correct everything that is black instead of white. So with that, you might be able to do some things to help automate the creation of this skew map. For example, maybe what I do is I use my normal map to generate a curvature, and then do levels, do some adjustment, things like that to get the curvature to create a mask around my edges. Now I have this edge mask where I want to be basically like held out or not corrected, and I want to correct everything else. Then I could feed that into this skew map, and then make sure that invert skew correction is enabled. And that's something that you could work through when you're working with something with, like, say, the Bash tools or something. So again, just an idea of making this kind of an automated workflow. Okay, so like I said, I want to talk just a little bit more in depth about what this is doing because I think it could be pretty helpful. So what I'm going to do is just switch over here to another screen where I've got this image here. And so I don't really have a pointer on this image, so I'm just going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. So the idea here is in this image, you can see that this orange, this orange kind of corner of this cube is going to be like the low-res mesh. And you can see that it's a hard edge. And then we have these red arrows pointing out. Those are going to be the mesh normals. So they're pointing from the vertices outwards. Those are my mesh normals, and they're non-average because it's a hard edge. Then I have this kind of blue area, which is indicating that this is like my high-res mesh. So you can see I have a nice curved edge, and then I've got like these little bolt areas. So in here in your baking, let me go back to my screen here just for a moment. And there is a very important setting here in the Baker average normals here. So if I turn off skew, so notice here that average normals is disabled. If I come over here to my skew map correction, now you can see that I now have the ability to disable and enable average normals. Okay, so let's go back to our diagram. When you have the average normal feature enabled, you can see here in these green arrows, these are going to indicate this average normal. Now these are not, these are going to be where the ray trace is being shot from, or the starting point of the ray trace. And you can see where it's basically averaging these normals from the mesh normals. However, you can see that since these average normals are coming in at different angles, that's why we're getting this skew problem. So in order to fix that, what we want to do is we want to be able to paint like a mask, like I said. So if we come over and take a look at this image, you can see that these white circles, these indicate the mask that I painted. So remember I said I painted white around that area. And whenever you paint white, or basically we'll say it like this. So anywhere in the mask, wherever you see black, that's going to basically tell the system to, well, just use the computed average normal. And wherever there's white, we want to use the non-average normal. So here you can see the two difference in the arrows. So in the white areas, we're using the red arrows indicate non-average normals. And the green, which is everywhere in the black, indicates that we have these average normals. And anywhere you have like a transitional gray value in your mask that you're creating, that's going to be a mix of the average and the non-average normals. So that's how this system works, and that's what you're actually indicating to the system. Basically, do I use average or do I use non-average normals? And that's why that average normal setting is disabled when you have skew map enabled. Or I'm sorry, when you have skew correction enabled. Now, one limitation I want to describe about this is that in this case, this works because my low-res mesh here, let me just jump back over to my designer screen here. My low-res mesh, and we'll just maximize my viewport finally. Let's see, my low-res mesh that we had, it had hard edges and things like that, so that's going to work. Now, this technique's not going to work if we just have all smooth edges, because it basically works with the hard edges, because we're going to need to use those non-averaged normals, the non-averaged normal vector from the ray trace, so that we can fix where this skew distortion is going to be. So that's like the limitation for the system. Okay, so one other thing I want to cover about the Bakers. It's going to be good for technical artists and those making scripts and things. But we now store the baking state inside the SBS, so it's in a readable format, XML format. So let me just show you that real quick. Let me just right-click my package here, and I'm going to show this in Explorer. And let me just open it. All right, so here I'm just opening it in Visual Studio Code, and if I just, this is basically the SBS, and if you didn't know, the SBS file itself is XML readable, so if you're ever needing to like batch process SBS files through scripts, you can do that. But if I just scroll down here towards the bottom, and you'll see it's really, I don't have a lot of options here, so it's pretty small in this area, but you can see it's right here. Let me just see if I can't highlight this. Having a little problem, but here down here in the bottom you can see that it shows me my format, the file depth, skew fix, PNG, which one I was going to use in that particular case, and so on. So right here in this area we have our bake information, and again, like I said, it's human readable now within the SBS file if you need to parse that with XML. So let me just close this guy or get rid of that. Okay, so that is going to take care of our baking. Hold on just a second. let me make sure we close that guy. All right. Okay, so that, like I said, that's going to take care of our baking. So now we're going to move on to some other features here. And let me start by talking about the 3D view. So the 3D view, it's no longer stored. The view state of the 3D view is no longer stored from one session to another. So basically, like before, like if you had Substance Designer and I had this opened and I, closed Designer, opened it back up, my material settings, environment, and that kind of stuff is like being held over. But we no longer do that. So when you start up Designer, it's going to be like a fresh environment now. So another thing with this, though, is that we now have an option to create new 3D resources in different states. And so, for example, let's say that here I've got this mesh, and like I said, it's part of my resource here. I've got this part low. And let's say that I want to make like a variation of this with some different settings for, like, say, camera and environment. So if I come over to my scene, I can now create a 3D resource from the current scene. So here I'll just click this. And it's going to ask me where I want it to go. I'll just place it here in my resource folder. And I'm going to call this part skew _02. And here this is asking me, do I want to reuse? No, I don't. I want to do something different. So now I've got this new part skew _2. And notice that this now becomes like a new 3D. And here, let's do this. Instead of environment, let's go to camera. So I'm going to edit my camera. Let's go to my clear color and just change it to this really obnoxious yellow color. And I don't know, maybe do something like a little vignette. Because if you have a yellow obnoxious color, you need a nice vignette. So there we go. So that's this new resource. And just as before, our resource information, like our camera environment, that's being stored within this. So now if I go back to my original, so I'll double click this guy. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry, made a mistake here. Let's see. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I actually kind of did this on the wrong mesh. So here's the part skew. This one's okay. And then we go back to this guy here. Sorry about this. I didn't save that in the right order. So what I need to do, like I said, if I come back here to my camera, let's see here, edit. And then again, like I said, we'll make our color, make our changes that we want to make. Then once I kind of have done it set up here, I can then go in and I can create a 3D resource from this state. Part skew, maybe we'll call this one _3. And so now we'll have another version of that from that state. So sorry about that. I kind of ran through that in the wrong order here. Okay, so that's how we can kind of create new resources from states in our 3D view. And by the state, I mean just like, environment change, camera setup, things like that. And you can see post-processing and things like that all included. Another thing about the Explorer window as well. So if we come over in here and I right-click my package and go to File New, I now can even create a 3D scene from here as well. So like before, we used to be able to come in here and create, like, let's say I use like a cube here. And let's go to my camera and let's just reset this guy. So here we'll come in. Well, here, let's just reset my scene here. So I've got this cube. Let's go to my scene and change something like, I don't know, let's do like a sphere. So now I've got this sphere and we were able to load in these objects based here on our 3D view. But now we've added the capability to come in and also add these as part of an actual 3D scene. So for example, if I wanted to do like a plain high res, I can do that and it gets added as part of my resource. So again, now I can go in and change, make environment and camera changes, and then save that out as a different resource from a current state. And then I can have all these different states here of the models as I start to work. So that's how that works here with our 3D view. Let's now move on to talking a bit more about our graph. So let's see here. Let me open up. Let me just open up a different scene here. Let me try this bark. So I'm going to open this up, and then here I'll just grab like just something here. Just get a little model. Okay. So just to have a graph open. So one of the things that we have here that we introduced in Substance Designer 6 was this parent size resolution. And so we're actually going to store this as part of the graph resource instead of the local registry. So what this means is that previously, let's say that I'm working on this substance, and I am working on this at 1K resolution, and then I upload it, and maybe on Substance Share or whatever, or I send it to someone. Say we're working together. I send it to you. You open it in Designer 6. It's going to not set this 1024 by 10. It's going to just be whatever the default setting is. But now we actually are remembering this value. So if is me, the artist, creating this, and I set this to be like 1024, when I give the file to you and you open it, it will also be set at this 1024. So this is going to be a bit easier to work with. Okay, so next, what I want to talk about here, let's see, we talked about our size here. Yeah, here's another option that we have that's basically been exposed as a preference. So let's take a look at this guy. Hopefully I can find where it is. So here we'll come into our preference. And one of the things we've added now is we've exposed this memory cache budget in the preferences. So let me see here where this guy is located. Just give me just a second. It should be under... Sorry about that. I'm sure I'm just completely overlooking it. Just one more second. If I can't see it, then I'll just have to talk through it. Sorry about this. Yeah, I don't see it. Okay, so in here, we have a new preference. All right, so obviously I'm not sure where it is in this current build that I have. But what it does is it allows you to set a cache. I think thumbnail cache. I think this is actually it here. Sorry about this. Yeah, here we go. Thumbnail right in my face. It always is, isn't it? Okay, so here we've got our thumbnail cache size that we can set, and then our image cache size here. And so, like I said, this is now a part of an actual preference that you can set. So, for example, here with this image cache size, now this one here is going to be set to this value by default, and you can increase this if you want. So, for example, if you start to see like you're working here in your graph and you start to see some of your thumbnails not caching or some of the things not updating, perhaps what's happened is that you've hit this maximum value here. And what happened before was this was kind of locked, like you couldn't change it. So like if you had a system that had like, a lot, like 32 gigs or whatever, and you wanted to be able to fully utilize a lot of your system RAM so that your graph, was always updating and things like that, we didn't have a way for you to do that. So what we've done now is just expose this here, this image cache size. We've exposed this as a preference that you can set so that you can now, increase this depending on how much you want, how much RAM you want to throw at it. So again, here it's underneath preferences general. Sorry it took me so long to find it. Okay, so let's see, what else do we got here? I'm just kind of looking through a list. We actually have a very long list because there's features, but then we also have a lot of bug fixes and things. So I'm just trying to run through some of the main stuff here for this stream. So let's see here. Yeah, one of the things that it's a simple fix, but it was kind of bothersome. Before, if you were to create like a content frame like I have here. So let's look at my graph. We'll zoom in. So I've grouped this little section of nodes here using one of these comment frames. This one here is cracks. You can now actually rescale this from any corner. So before you could only do it from one specific corner, but now if you want to like make a change to this guy, you can just, you're more free to resize these guys from any corner that you drag on. So that's pretty good. And you even got the sides and so on. So it's just a little bit more flexibility into that. Okay, so let's see. What else do we got here? Yep, well, I've got optimized node thumbnails and generation speed, so a lot of optimization stuff here. Okay, yeah, here's one that's pretty cool for the curve. Let me just jump into a different package real quick that's actually using the curve node. All right, so here, let me zoom in and let me just find a curve. So here's one thing you could do in case you didn't know. If you need to search for a specific type of if you need to search for a specific type of node, you can hit this hourglass and then choose curve, and then here you can see it just highlights in the graph, where I have these settings here. So here, let's go to this guy, and so here I can just copy, and I'm just going to paste this guy off here. So now I've got these nodes here. I can actually, mirror horizontally, can't talk today. Mirror horizontally or mirror vertically. So that's, again, just something else that we've added here. Basically letting you be able to flip. Also, you have flip horizontal and flip vertical here. So if we just select a couple of these guys here, we can just flip these. And then, of course, like I said, we've got the mirror as well. So gets a little extra functionality there added to the curve node. So here's another option I want to talk about in terms of graph, and this is about parameters. This one I think is really awesome because this has totally gotten me in trouble many times. Okay, so here we have basically just a material. And if I just double click here to get to the root level of my graph, I'm going to come over and just look at my input parameters. You'll notice I have a single input parameter. And so this guy is a bark shape offset. And what it's doing here is, let me just double click the node that it's affecting it. So it's an FX map. Here, let's go back to this guy. All right. So as I start to change this value, you can see that it's basically kind of spreading out this shape that I'm using for the bark. So this is just a user preference that I have, okay? So it's just one single input in this case. Now, let's say that I want to, make a variation of this graph. So one thing that I would do often is I would come in and say, okay, you know what? Let me just select all these guys here. This is just one way. You could just simply duplicate the graph. But in my case, sometimes I'll be working on something like, say, for instance, these cracks. This is kind of more of a real world example. Say like these cracks here. And let's say like, okay, you know what? I like this, what's going on here with these cracks. This is going to work like maybe a crack generator. I might want to use this as a utility. So sometimes I might just select all these guys, right click, and you can create a graph from selection. So that's going to create a new graph with these nodes, and then I can continue working. It's basically a way to quickly subgraph that. Now, if you were to have some parameters that are driving some of these nodes, they don't come along for the ride when you do this. So then everything breaks if you have any functions. So just to give you a demonstration, since it's got a single function in it, let me just select all these nodes here. Let me make sure I get everybody. All right, so I've got all these nodes. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a graph from selection, and then we'll call this bark 03 and click OK. So now I've got this new bark here. So I'll double click and let's open up this new graph. Now you can see that it's already computed, and I'll tell you, because I worked on this in Substance Designer 6, I can already tell you I love this generation speed of the nodes and everything, because it's really going quick. So one question I just happened to catch here in the comments, a breakdown for this bark graph would be awesome. That is totally coming. I have said this before, so if anybody has remembered some of my live streams, I said, hey, I'm going to do this, and I haven't done it yet. But anyways, I've got the bark material now, and I've reworked it just recently, so it's super optimized. So this is going to be another video that's coming pretty soon. It should be in July. To the Substance Designer getting started. So it's going to be like a whole step-by-step, or I'll say node-by-node, breakdown of how to create this bark material. So that's definitely on the list to do sooner than later. Okay, so like I said, I've got this new graph here. Now you'll notice, in my input parameters for this new graph, this guy's gone. I don't have this input parameter. If I come back over here to my FX map, you can see now my FX map doesn't look right, so something's changed here. And let me jump into this guy, and let me show you where I have this function. So pattern offset, we'll jump into this guy. And you can see that this is looking for something that isn't there. So I've got this variable, it doesn't exist anymore. So a quick way to fix this now would be to use this new copy and paste of attributes, which is, like I said, a real time saver. Now I'm showing this in a very simple way. This is one parameter, but imagine if you had like, 30 parameters and you'd have to one by one recreate every one of these parameters. It's really not cool. So let's say you had a ton of parameters. What you could do is just come up here to your function graph, just click this button, and now we have this new copy inputs. So I could just choose copy inputs. And that would copy all of the inputs. Or if you have many parameters, like in my case I just have one, each parameter is going to have this single copy input button next to it. So in my case I could say, you know what, I just want to copy this one parameter. So I'll just click that button. I'll come back to this bark3. Now I'm going to come over to my input parameters where I have the function button, and then I'll just paste this input. Now it shows up, my parameter. You can see that it automatically hooked up because it's set where that function was. And then once again, just to show you it working, let's go to that FX map. Let's go back to this guy, and let's make a change. So now you can see that parameter's updating as it should. So we can copy and paste parameters. And like I said, I showed it here very simply, which is one. This is really going to be good when you have dozens of parameters you need to move from one graph to the next. So that is the copy and paste of parameters. Okay, so there's another thing that we've added with parameters that's really cool, and that's the ability to create and save presets. So if you weren't aware of this, which I don't think many people are, I myself had no idea how we were doing this before. But, we have Substance Source. So if you go into Substance Source, you might download a few substances, and you'll notice that some of them come with these presets that are embedded in the Substance file. And so we've never had a way in Designer to do that via the UI. It was this manual way of just editing the source, the actual source file itself, I think like in a text editor or something. But now we have this new ability to create and save, edit, display presets here in Designer. So I want to kind of demonstrate how this could work. So here, let me open up another substance here. So this here is a sci-fi panel. This guy here is actually on Substance Share as well. And if you're interested in checking out how this was done, you can grab it on Substance Share. Let's see. So here you can see I've got tons of parameters. And here if I wanted to like copy all these guys, this again just to show you, you could copy the inputs. Or let's just say that I just want to grab a few of them. I could just copy one at a time and paste it over if I wanted to. Okay, so let's see here. Like I was saying, I wanted to talk about being able to create a preset. So let me show you how that works. All right, so I've got this substance here, and this guy has a lot of parameters, so we can make a lot of different variations. So what I'm going to do here is just come over to my input parameters, and I'm going to click this little like page looking button, and this is going to put me in preview mode. So I'll do that, and now you can see I've got preview mode. So this is what my controls look like if I were to add this into, let's say, Unreal Engine or Unity or something. So you'll now notice that next to each one of these controls here, we have this little pin button. So I'm going to create a preset. Now we'll do that up here in the top of the UI. So now you see we have this new drop down, this little gear button, and this little plus button. So we'll get to that in a second. So now I want to make a preset. So the first preset I want to do, I'm going to come to sides. I'm going to pin this. I'm going to come to the center disk option. These are all underneath my panel controls, so I'll pin those two guys. Compartments, I'm going to pin that. And then I'm just going to come over here to this materials where I have my paint color. So notice it's kind of like this yellowish, real orangish, dirty, whatever the color this is. I'm going to pin that. So I've pinned a couple parameters that I want to be able to link to a preset. So here, now that I have this, I can come over into here, and let's just say this is the default preset. So we've got these guys. I'm going to click the plus button, and it creates this preset 0. So to edit this, I'll click this gear button, and I could change this. So I don't know, let's just call it default. And then I could even make some user tags with this. So I don't know, default state of the material. Okay, so there we have that in place, and that's our default. All right, so here I'll unclick that gear icon, and let's create another variation of this material. So this time I'm going to take the center disk down to 0. Again, these are the parameters that I have pinned, and you can see that this guy's starting to update. So here, let's just change these guys. So we'll get rid of those parameters there so we don't have these doors. Let's come back over to my compartments and let's set this to 4 compartments. So it's talking about these guys here. So it splits that up. Let's come down to our base color, and my color editor jumped over onto my other monitor. And let's set a different value for this guy. So here, let's say, totally different type setup here. So this is going to be a new material, or a new preset. So I'll click this preset button here. It says preset 1. Again, we'll come in and, whoops, sorry about this. Right here's the preset. I want to change this to floor. And now I have my 2 presets. So here I can now switch this. So if we go back to default, you can see here, graphs computing. And so now it's kind of changing my setup here. And it looks like I've got a small issue here with my paint is not transferring. So that could be maybe a little bug. Possibly I did something wrong, but you can see everything else went through. Then we'll switch this back here to floor. And now it's just going to recompute what I had before. So now when I publish this as a substance material to use in, say, UE4 or Unity, you'll be able to use this preset. Now, let me take that back a step, because these are embedded preset files. And so not all of the integrations are going to work with embedded presets. So we're actually working on getting those updated now. So again, the goal for the future is we're going to have all of these presets that are embedded in the Substance. They're going to be able to be recognized within all of the integrations that we support. So again, that's something we're working towards in the future. Just want to clarify that. But here you can see that if it's good here in this case of a material, but you can also do this to any node. So for example, let's just say that really quick I grab something like, say, a tile generator. In here, and here we go. Let me zoom in on this guy. All right, so let's say that I create like a tile generator here, and I set this up to be something specific. I'll just make a quick change here. So say I set up a really cool type of effect for this tile generator that I want to use. I can also come into this guy and I can create presets here as well. So this would be good for if you're creating like a utility node or something. So in here, let's see, I've got to check on exactly how that works here for these instances. So in this particular case, you might not be able to do it. Again, I'm not 100% sure on how that works for these type of nodes, but from my understanding is that we'll be able to do or utilize these presets for utility nodes that you create. So like I said, say you're making like this one that I'm using here, it's not allowing me to create one because I think it's from the default Substance package. But basically, let's say that I made my own tile generator to create specific type of bricks, and then I create variations on that. So it's like my own kind of utility tool. And then, I could then use that in another Substance, and then I could have like 3 or 4 different variations. So like maybe it's like a circular brick pattern or a different type of tiling brick pattern and so on. So it's really powerful in the way that you can create variations on materials or variations on the utility tools that you create in Designer as well. Okay, so a couple more things to kind of run through here. Let's see. Yeah, one thing that we've got, let's go back here to our attributes. All right, so this is just a simple one, but here in your graph, you can see that we've also added some more information about the graph instance. So here you can see that we've added the file path information on graph instances. So here we can get this information. So something simple but can be useful. Let's see, another one here that's pretty good, the functions. Okay, so let's see. Now we can open references for function graphs. So let's see here. Let me zoom out. I'm trying to think of where I might have a function on this guy real quick. So here I'm just kind of looking at my parameters. Again, in case this is something new, you haven't seen this before, I'm hitting this little eyeglass. We call it the node finder tool. And then, like I said, we can search by curve type, node type, or we can search by using custom parameters. So these are all my custom parameters. So let me see here. Which one of these guys do I maybe have? Let me try this one. Let's see. I'm just trying to find a quick function, maybe. I'll tell you what. Here, let's just do it this way then, just to save some time. Let's say that I make like a uniform color, and we'll turn this guy off. And we'll just come into this color here, and I'm going to create an empty function for this guy and jump into it. So, and just to kind of show you what I mean with this function is, let's come over to one of these functions, and we'll grab something like, say, maybe this distance here. So this is just one of the functions that that we ship with inside of Painter. And so just as we were able to do with just the other nodes that we ship with, now you can right-click on a function node, and you can now open reference to this as well. So here I'll click open, and so now this opens that graph so that we can see how that was created as well. So just a quick way to kind of get to these Substance files, open as reference. Okay, so another kind of tidbit that I want to talk about here with just the graph. Let's see. It's a simple one here. For color management, we now read the ICC profile on bitmaps. So bitmaps that you import, we now correctly read the ICC profile. Here, like I said, I've got my graph. Let me talk about exporting textures. So another kind of thing that we've added, if I come over to my little gear icon here, if I select this button here and I choose export outputs, and let's see, now we have our pattern. We've also added some new kind of macros to this as well. So for instance, we have label, group, and user data. So here underneath the pattern, if I wanted to basically add my label to this, I could do that. Here I've got my group, or also user data to this as well. So here's user data. This could be useful using your user data. So here, let me cancel that. I'll double click just to kind of go out on the root level of my graph here, and I'll come into my base parameters. So here underneath, not my base parameters, but my attributes for this root level of the graph, you can see we've got this little field here for user data. So maybe you could tag this with some type of specific information. And then when you actually go to export, for your export, you could have that always output with that user data to that as well. So again, just mainly for kind of like, pipeline usage, but I just wanted to show that we have these new labels here. Another thing that we've added that I didn't want to forget when it comes to functions, here, let me just jump back into a function, this guy here. So I'm going to create a float. Actually, here, let me do this. Get float, I'm sorry. So I want to use a get float. So I'm looking for a variable, and we've now added a new engine variable here, which is going to be, let's see, I'm sorry, it's not that, it is get integer. And we now have this new tiling here. So what this is if you say, let me go back over to a panel, and we'll just grab just some node here. Underneath base, you can see that you have your tiling mode. Here, let me do it this way. Sorry about this. Transformation 2D. And I'm going to come over to my tiling mode, and I'm going to set this to be absolute. So now I have access to this drop down. And so, like I said, it's actually an integer for this. So we have this drop down, and if you look at these values, you have like no tiling, horizontal, vertical, and horizontal and vertical tiling. So if you grab this as a variable from an integer, you can look at the data type being like an array index notation. So basically, no tiling. The first option is 0. Horizontal tiling is 1. Vertical tiling is 2, and the last H and V tiling is 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is how you're going to be able to access these options. So you can now access the tiling mode. Okay, so let me just kind of check here and see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's going to pretty much kind of cover the list I have. We're getting close to an hour here. So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of stop kind of the overall kind of workflow. I don't know. Basically, let's see here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think out loud. There was one other thing I was thinking. I'm sorry about that. A little flustered there on the thought. Okay, so yeah. That's going to be kind of all the main features that I wanted to show. So what we're kind of looking at mainly in this is kind of the start of a whole new, set of features that are coming to Designer. We're starting the new 2017 cycle, again, kind of sticking with that new maintenance system that we have. And then, like I said, the core features of this has been all of the improvements to the baking. So we also have the skew map correction option as well. And then, like I said, redesign of the baking UI and such. And then performance increases, tons of bug fixes, and so on. So this release is actually going to launch tomorrow, and be sure to also check, our product page. We're going to have some more information as well as the change log list, so that way you'll be able to, see all of the things that we've updated, especially bug fixes and so on. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us on this live event, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on the tools. And again, we just really appreciate everyone's support, and we've got a lot more coming, so stay tuned. So real quick, let me just kind of run through some of these comments to see if we have any questions. If anybody has any kind of Q&A, we've got just a little bit more time, and I can try to answer a few questions. So are we getting these features in Substance Painter is one question. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on that right now, so I'll have to go back and ask the Painter team. Specifically myself, I would love to see that the skew correction come into Painter, but honestly, I can't comment on that right now. Let's see. Again, just kind of looking through. One question here again, Designer, can it do animated textures? No, not really. We don't have like a timeline editor that you can like set keyframes and animate things with. With that being said, though, we do have a system engine variable called time. So for example, if we come back into here and I use I'm just going to get a float value, and you'll notice that here we have this option here called time. So if you didn't know, anytime you see a variable that has a $ in front of it, that's what we refer to as a system engine variable, so a variable of the Substance engine. And this can be used to drive parameters. So for example, let's say that I use time and I tried to drive like maybe, let me go back into here, and I tried to drive like the offset of, the offset value of one of these transform nodes. So let me grab this guy here. Here's my offset based on time. And then if I took that into a system like, for instance, Substance Player, if you're using that, Substance Player will actually show with a time slider that you can actually scrub and play. Then you can get some animated textures that way. But it's basically going to work inside of the runtime engine, so with Substance engine itself. So that's how that works. Let's see here. One question here is, how often are you guys planning on these types of updates in the future? I really, honestly, I'm not really sure on that. From what I understand about what we want to do is, we're going to have like the roadmap that we've always had. So, and we're still doing regular updates. But now what we wanted to kind of do, or kind of hit with this kind of the idea of moving into these 2017 or these releases on maintenance, is that now when features are ready, we're going to release them, so we don't have to, we're not stringent on certain types of release schedules or whatever. So when features are ready, we'll release them and so on. But we're still committed to doing the same amount of updates that we've done before and so on. So it's not like, oh, now we're doing less updates. We're actually it actually frees the developers to, I don't know if say do more is the right word. I mean, I don't want them shaking their fist at me, but yeah, we're going to just continue on with our schedule. So I'm sorry I can't give like a really great answer to that one. So here's a good question here. Do you plan to add vector displacement in Substance Designer? I'm sorry, again, I don't really know the answer to that one. Per se, if you're talking about vector displacement, displacement, like a displacement shader, like using, oh, okay, I see there. Sorry, VDM brushes. No, we actually do not have plans that I know of as of right now. So I will say I'm not sure on that. It's something I can, obviously take back to the team and see. But yeah, that's kind of where we are on that one for now. Here's one question here. Do designer and painter ever get rounded edge shader like Modo? Yeah, I don't know on that one as well. I can tell you that's one I have asked for because I actually use that a lot as a Modo user myself. Using the rounded edge shader would be really cool, I think, to see something like that. So I put in a feature request for that. So we'll see. So this question here, is this version free for the SD6 owners? Again, hopefully I don't misspeak on this one here, but from my understanding of the way it works is this is a free update for all those that are on subscription. So we have our subscription that you're paying. If you're paying into that subscription, then yeah, it's just free. You'll have it in your account. If you're not on subscription, say you did like a one-time purchase of SD6, I believe at that point it's not free, and that you then we then have like upgrade path. Like if you wanted to upgrade, you could do one of two things. You could, jump on subscription if you wanted to, or if you're not, which is perfectly, like you want to do your own like standalone purchase again, you can do that. And we have like an upgrade option for that as well. If you go to algorithmic.com and go into the download buy, so you click that button, scroll down, and you'll see at the bottom upgrade there's a button called upgrade. Click it and it'll give you the options there. Here's another question. The Steam version, is it the same as Algorithmic? Yes, it is. Yeah, same version, and they'll have 2017 there as well. So yeah, I'm just checking some of the questions here as I go through. Let's see. Here's a question here towards the bottom. Will there be a bridge between designer and painter? Again, I can't really speak on those types of things at this time yet. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on what we're going to do with that. I think I can say that internally we're always looking at ways to improve the tool set and improve interop between the tools. But I don't have anything specific I can really share. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Just looking at some more of these questions here. Okay, guys, I think everything is kind of pushing out over an hour. So what I think we'll do now is just go ahead and close out the stream. Again, just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and we appreciate everyone's support. And we look forward to, again, like I said, hearing what you guys think about 2017. Also, please let us know in the forums if you have any issues or if you have any feedbacks or anything like that. We'd love to hear it. And stay tuned to our Twitter, our blog post, subscribe to our newsletter so you can always get up-to-date information on when we're going to be doing future streams like this as well. So thanks a lot, everyone, and really appreciate your time.